Hello there, thank you so much for joining us on Joy Asonye Live here on Kaftan Television. It's good to know you're right there. Yesterday, being the 10th of December, was the International Day of Human Rights, a day set aside to look into human rights violations if countries are having any effort whatsoever in upholding these human rights. Where is Nigeria in all of this? That makes me giggle, because Nigeria, as we know it now, is facing significant human rights issues. That's including credible reports of unlawful detention and arbitrary killings. We have forced disappearance, torture, cases of cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, some by law enforcement agencies. Where is Nigeria in this? Although statistics vary as to how bad the human rights treatments are in Nigeria, it will be nice to have the conversation and see how you and I can put our hands together to uphold this the human rights that every human being should enjoy with integrity. Well, that's what we'll be discussing, and in the studio with me to do justice to this topic is my guest, Godwin Agaba Ochube. He's the Strategic Relations Officer, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
It's wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much.
From the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch. I know you do a lot around financial upholding, but well, here we are. Let's talk human rights.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, the issues of human rights abuse in Nigeria, like I said, it's a very big problem, and we at the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch, we've been doing a lot around issues regarding human rights. You know, there is a relationship between corruption and human rights abuses. Okay?
It's going to be an interesting conversation, but we're going for a short break now. We'll return to get into the crux of the matter. International Human Rights Day. Where is Nigeria? We'll be right back. Welcome back to this special edition where we are commemorating the World Human Rights Day, and our focus today would be efforts of the Nigerian government in promoting and protecting human rights. Like I said earlier, we have Godwin Agaba Ochube, Strategic Relations Officer, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch. So everybody seems to in Nigeria, I think there's no one person who hasn't had a stint with human rights being violated. In fact, in my own case, it was by the law enforcement agents, you know. But where would you say Nigerians are when it comes to even understanding their rights as humans?
When it comes to understanding Nigerians understanding their right, I could say we are at a very poor percentage when it comes to understanding, if you want to look at it in that way. Because like you said, you've been abused by law enforcement agency. We have issues of extrajudicial killings. We have a lot of things going on in the country, and even if you want to go into it deeply, you understand that it's actually a very big problem eating deep into the fabric of our society. Like I said, the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch, what we do is we fight corruption. We try to improve good governance. And where there are issues of, we have good governance in place, you discover that it's spill over to affect or upholding human rights in the country. So there is a lot of gap when it comes to Nigerians having knowledge about issues of their rights, and there is also a lot of issues that have to do with law enforcement agency being the real people abusing people's right in the country.
So how do we improve on the knowledge on for citizens? Because I mean, sometimes I feel like we do not even know what our rights are. Because if we do know what our rights are, we'll not only protect ourselves, we'll also help to protect others. But very often our rights are tampered with and all of that, and we shrug and say we live and for God.
Exactly. So if you want to look at how to improve on that. I think what we do at the civil society space, which has to do with advocacy, okay, training and letting the people know via the media and every platform that is available. Let the people know their rights, okay. Let the people understand what it takes, what it means to have your human rights protected, okay. For example, you look at a situation in IDP camps, for example. Now there are a lot of violations going on, and in October 24th, 25th, we had a symposium, an organized crime symposium, where we talk about issues of human trafficking and all of those things, educating both law enforcement agencies and the citizens. So with that kind of platform, with that kind of programs, you see that Nigerians should become aware, okay, of the issues. And I wouldn't say Nigerians are not aware. Nigerians are aware of human rights because we have been revolting. You look at the NSAS protests and a lot of things. You discover that they are actually aware of issues of human rights abuse. I think what you should ask is, are the law enforcement agency aware that they are abusing Nigerian rights?
Well, I should think that question is very important. However, you know, I just came out of a conference where we're talking about administration of the Justice Act, and it's quite funny. They had the policemen, they had law enforcement agents in that conference. They do know what the right thing is, but you know. Like I said, if you give power without having checks, you would always see the abuse of power. But we now talk about the awareness. Nigerians are aware or not aware that they even have this right as human beings, not rights that are supposed to be given by anybody, rights that they have for just being human beings. However, my question now would be, who do they run to? If you and I have just alluded and agreed that the law enforcement agents sometimes even are culpable in violating you of your human rights. So who then do we run to when we feel like another human being or even the law enforcement agents are violating our human rights?
Okay, when it comes to who do we run to, exactly, still the government. Okay, but then the approach in which we run to the government will be what matters now. Okay, when you see citizens advocating for a reform in law enforcement agencies, that is citizen running to the government. You understand? When you see citizens advocating for transparency, for accountability in governance entirely, that is citizen running to the government. Okay, so when you have citizens that are well informed on those kind of issues, raise it to the government, you see that those kind of issues of human right abuse can be solved. Also, we have representatives, okay, at the National Assembly. Citizens can as well organize themselves. We also have what the civil society organizations like us is also doing in that regard. Okay, so we could have that kind of support from the citizens, and you could see changes exactly coming into being.
Okay. Now, where do you think the world looks at Nigeria when it comes to human rights violations? Do you think the world understands that this is a country where if you violate anybody's human right, you will get punished?
Like I said, I don't think we are at a good ranking when it comes to that. In terms of human rights abuse, we are the performance for me it's very, very poor. Okay, because we are just looking at it from the law enforcement agencies. There are other aspects of it, like I mentioned, children out of school, right to education is also human rights. You understand? Okay, we have a lot of thousands of children displaced, not having access to education. That's human right. Okay, we have extrajudicial killings here and there. That's human right. Okay, and those are things perpetuated by our citizens themselves. Okay, so in terms of ranking, we are poor. We have a lot of things to do. We have a lot of way to go when it comes to that.
Do you think we have learned our lesson? I mean, just a couple of months ago, Nigeria lost out to be part of the United Nations Human Rights Council. That's something that a lot of people were looking forward to. We saw countries like Malawi, we saw Ghana securing a seat, but Nigeria just got 3 votes. And I remember asking myself, it was even very ambitious of us to think that we could. So do you think in our bid to attract foreign direct investment, attract companies into, but these little things trickle and give a certain face as to where the country is and is affecting us?
Yes, it definitely affects us. It affects the image of the country. It affects direct investment, foreign investment into the country, of course. But then we have a new government in place, and I am sure they're definitely going to do something about it. Okay, we have a new government in place, so it's a very big work. It's a very long journey to take. But for example, but if you're going to tell me, if you're going to ask me to talk about it, I will say we need reform. We need training of the law enforcement agencies to know their work, to understand their work. We also need non-violent approaches, okay, to solving problems in Nigeria. You look at the way the army treats insecurity and a whole lot of things, all through violent approaches and all of those things. It leads to a lot of human rights abuses and the rest. You saw what happened in Kaduna recently, which we are still unable to recover from, the killings by the Nigerian army itself. So if we employ non-violent approaches to most of those issues, we end up solving them, okay? And then we look at, not even at the city, look at the rural areas, okay, especially where there are armed conflict, okay, especially where children have been displaced, IDP camps, a lot of abuses going on there. Human trafficking, it's at the height, it's at the peak at that level. So if we look at, shift a little, while looking at the major cities and look at that aspect, I believe our ranking will go up and we'll do better, because it's not just about foreign investment, it affects human capital as well, okay? The labor population, the population that should be able to contribute economically to the country are being scared. Okay, you see them migrating from the country.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's
exactly. It's like a ripple effect of what is going on. But you seem very confident that this new administration will do something about it. But let me read an indices according to some human rights advocates that says there are 5 key improvements, the areas we should see: promote civilian protection in conflict areas, respect and protect media freedom and the rights to free expression, bolster the social safety net to tackle entrenched poverty and inequality, protect and promote the rights of internally displaced people, and adopt a foreign policy that centers human rights. Where do you think this administration's body language is? Only 6 months in, maybe that's too early to judge. However, body language, we go again. I think we should just unbundle one at a time.
Okay.
Promote civilian protection in conflict areas. Do you think this government has made any effort in statements, in body language, in whatever way you judge, that gives you that kind of KPI or confidence that they are moving in the right direction, first of all, in civilian protection in conflict areas?
Well, given the occurrence in Kaduna State recently, I wouldn't call the government excellent in that aspect.
Right.
Okay, but then these things happened. You understand? This thing happened, and I wouldn't say the government is trying on that aspect. They should do more. Okay, that's what I could say for now. They should do more in terms of protecting citizens. Okay, not just play politics around it, but be sure of what they are doing, okay, when it comes to protecting the rights of citizens, especially in IDP camps. Okay, you go to that place, there are a lot of human rights abuses going on there. So I would not say the government has done well. It's still new. They are still rolling up a lot of plans on that aspect. I'm not here to defend them, but I'm optimistic that a lot of things will definitely come.
In one of these KPIs or indices, it says promote the rights of internally displaced persons. And in your conversation, you have mentioned more than once what is going on in IDP camps across Nigeria. It's very concerning that people who have run out from conflict-prone areas or conflict areas are now faced with another kind of challenge. And this one, it is something that could be very well managed and avoided. What do you think should be done for these people who are already vulnerable?
All right. What I think should be done for people in displaced locations is having both national and international humanitarian bodies coming up together to understand what exactly are the needs of those persons in IDP camp. Of course, we know that they want protection, they want to return back to their community, but then intervention should be based on the findings, research from those persons. Most of those persons are abused even by the caregivers. in those IDP camps, but they cannot speak up. Okay, those caregivers, some of them engage in trafficking them and all of those things. So if you have a good researchers go into these places and finding out exactly, you will see that interventions will be tailored towards that area. And another thing I think the government should do in that aspect is, like I said earlier, engaging the people, okay, using non-violent approach to solve the problem. Because to solve the problem of IDP in the country where human rights is prevalent there, you need to resettle those persons in their community, okay? And how do you do that? By ensuring that armed conflicts end. And how do you do that again? By using non-violent approach. Because what we use normally in Nigeria is violent, getting the military to dislodge, to kill, to, you know, all of those kind of things. So I want them to use non-violent approach, okay, to resolving the problem and then resettling them. And then in resettling, there are a lot of plans that have to, a lot of planning, a lot of provisions that have to be made, okay, to cater for their needs and all of those things. So if the government go along in that way, I feel human rights abuses to some extent is going to be curtailed.
Okay. Now let's talk about the foreign policies that centers on human rights. We are very good at being signing all these international bilateral policies, especially in paper, yes, but in implementation we rarely chart the course. You've spoken about the NSAS where Nigerians stood up to say, let's do this. This is where it is pinching us. We are being killed. We are being attacked. You should do something about it. Yes. There should be reforms around it. And if you have to judge, 2 years after, that was 3 years after, that was in 2020, yes. October 2020. Where do you think we are now? Did we learn any lessons from the NSAS agitation?
Yeah, actually, I would say it's still a cycle. Nigerians, the government have not learned a lesson. Issues of police brutality is still there. Okay, issues of corruption in the law enforcement agency, those things are still there. Okay, so we have those things. You go to the media, you see the police engaging in all of those things. So I would say the government have not learned anything. Okay, and I'm afraid to say if we have such kind of protest again, I'm afraid to say it's going to be very, very bad. You understand? So it has come to a point where Nigerians have had it all, like we've done everything. Okay, and this thing is not the problem is not going. So I would say Nigeria, we currently in that aspect we have not, the government have not learned a lot of lessons. Although there are a lot of reforms, there are a lot of things going on, but then if you come to the rank and files, if you come to the level at which you have the police to citizens, okay, you discover that the police
those
see the
trainings is like, yes, it doesn't get to them.
It doesn't get to them. You see the police see the citizens as enemies, okay, and it creates a lot of fear among the citizens. So for me, they haven't, and I would say aside training, the police should be engaged in community services. That's what I will feel. So the police know that they are part of the community. They are being taken out of the community to protect the people. So when you see that the police is part of the community, engaged in the different community services and all of that, you see that they may feel that they are also part of the community, that the people are not actually enemy, but they are actually there to protect them.
Police is your friend, they often say.
Yeah.
So when they say police is your friend these days, they are like, no, they are not. But let's go to the social media and how social media has helped or made or marred the efforts to give dignity to life. I think the social media has made it very... It's something we always knew, but social media exposed it better. Yeah. Now you can use your phone, take a picture of something that's going on, especially by law enforcement agents. You can take your phone, but after that, what happens? Because it keeps reoccurring. Oh, so what? They now say they've been suspended and all of that, but others still go that same way. I for one witnessed something very unfortunate, and one has to be careful as a bystander. Is one thing to say, I can't stand and watch another human being violated like this. It's another thing to want to help and then put yourself in harm's way.
Exactly.
So how has social media really helped in curbing what's going on? Do you think with all the videos we see of especially policemen extorting, beating and all of that, it has at all deterred anyone?
Well, I could say it's in process, because I do not have enough information on the aftermath of what police
the videos,
does
right.
and the regs, whether they are being sincere with their punitive measures or not. I could not say that, but I can say that social media has actually helped, because it forces the institution to be accountable to some extent, whereby they have to punish officers, and when they do that, often you discover that it serves as a deterrent to others. Okay. Also, in doing that as well, Nigerians must be very careful. Okay, because you've had cases where Nigerians are more interested in video recording an incident than providing solution. You said you may end up being in a problem.
Exactly.
But then there are situations where you need to help. It may not be involved with the police. We've seen cases where accident happened, unfortunate incident happened, where people should help. They are trying to use the social media to video, to post and all of those things, which is actually a problem. Okay, so I think social media is good, and it has been helping. It's very important in the fight against human rights abuses, because when you report it, the government is forced to act. You understand? And from the look of things and the way I've monitored it so far, I think the police are acting on most of those things, but we don't know the aftermath of
Ochube, there was such a senator who assaulted a young lady in a sex store. What happened after the backlash that he got from social media? There was also another highly placed Nigerian who attacked a young security man in Banex here in Abuja. What happened after all of that? So it must be exhausting for Nigerians as well, don't you think?
Exactly.
Well, I think it's a good time to go for a short break right now, because we're still discussing human rights and where we are in the country. When we return, we'll go into government transparency and accountability as ensuring respect for human rights. We'll also talk about aligning domestic laws and policies with these standards. We'll be right back. This is still Joy Asonye Live. This is still Just in Life, where we are discussing human rights in Nigeria and efforts of government, and many reports indicate that weak institutions contribute to the persistence of human rights abuses. So I will be asking my guests right now. Like I said earlier, we have Godwin Agaba Ochube, Strategic Relations Officer of the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch. I'll be asking you at this time, what's your opinion? What are the key challenges faced by these Nigerian institutions in addressing human rights violations? All of them, the judiciary, the law enforcement. What are the challenges you think is making them not uphold or helping citizens to uphold human rights?
All right, thank you for that. Now you have come to what we do at the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch.
My point exactly.
So corruption affects human rights. When the institute is corrupt, when the judiciary is not accountable, is not transparent, corruption helps human rights abusers. It shields them. It provides protection. When you have corrupt law enforcement agents, okay, we have the corrupt police and the rest providing shield for human rights abusers, it becomes difficult for the institutions to fight it, okay? And it goes all around to organized crime as well, which is part of what we do at the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch. So when the government is not transparent, is not accountable for what they do, okay, create an environment where human rights abuses become more prominent, okay, because it weakens the rule of law. Okay, it weakens the rule of law, and when the rule of law is weakened, you discover that human rights abuses, it thrives. It becomes a lucrative business for people to do. Okay, so there is a relationship between accountability with transparency, corruption, and criminal network, as well as human rights abuse.
Now let's start with accountability, because it's very important. You know, they say government transparency and accountability are very essential to ensuring respect of human rights. Yes. And we keep talking about accountability over and over. Funny thing is, I read the papers this morning, and it was said that our president, 6 months into office, has not even declared his assets. And that goes to show a lot about accountability and transparency, but a little away from that. We keep talking about this theoretically. Government should be accountable. Government should be accountable. But do we have that law that could deter any government that wants to go otherwise? The past administration was all about the fight against corruption, even though a lot of people would say they did not do quite a good, they did not do well in the fight against corruption. A lot of impunity went down under their noses. Where would you say this government is when it comes to transparency and accountability, so that it trickles down to what you say? It has so much to do with respect for human rights.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to laws, we have laws actually. The Freedom of Information Act, we have a lot of laws. And what we do at the center, you discover that one of our key projects is the Transparency and Integrity Index, which measures government making some vital information open to the public. Okay, you discover a situation where government ministries and agencies have a very bad website. You cannot even access the information.
And know what is going on there, so activities going on.
Yeah, so how do you know if their procurement standard is transparent? How do you know the people that, a lot of things, you understand? So, and that's why we came up with this initiative to ensure that we assess MDAs and the regs, local government, states, to know how far, okay, they are when it comes to making those informations available for the public.
How has the reception for it been? I mean, it's one thing to say we're a civil society organization.
Exactly.
Please, can you kindly share your details of your procurement, for instance? Yes. Can we see what's going on? Let's see who got what contract.
Yes.
How do they respond to you?
Actually, the law says that this information should be in the public domain, in their website.
Exactly.
But then you look at our assessment, out of 774 local governments, less than 10 even have a functional website.
Less than 10 local governments?
Yes, have a functional website in the country. You understand? So states and all of those things. So the information should be available in their website so that the public could see. That's what the law said. Okay? But then those informations are not available. And when you have that kind of situation, okay, you discover that institutions are weak. So if institutions are weak, the same way human rights abuses will go on.
Exactly.
You get, so there's a relationship with all of those things. If we can fight corruption, improve good governance, we'll end up upholding human rights. Okay, but if we cannot fight corruption, how do we defend human rights? You understand? So they are related and like that. So if we need to fight human rights, we also have to start from fighting the corruption in the system, making the institution to be strong enough. Okay.
Who should forge this chart, make the institution strong enough? Who should start it? Who is the matter that will do this? Because we keep talking about this over and over.
Exactly.
Some of us are tired of talking about how weak our institutions are. I can imagine reporting, even going to report a case right down, you could even be detained. There was such a time in this country, I don't know if it still happens. If it does happen, I would like to have comments from my viewers. Let me know what's going on. Where you are culpable for a crime or suspected to have committed a crime, the police comes and they do not see you, and they take your family member, hoping that then you would now bring yourself, in a bid to save your family member. And that is human right violation to the core. Here it is because institutions are not strengthened. Yes. We have cases where women are going to bail, whoever you may be, and they tell you, come with your husband, madam, we cannot we cannot allow you bail this person. What if later your husband comes and says it's not? You know, those kind of,
exactly.
That is infringing on a human, somebody who is old enough to bail. Yet there's so many going on, and we keep talking about strengthening institution. Who should start this strengthening? Because I mean, there is an act, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, that should shape it. We have those laws, like you said. So who?
Now the question of who, the way you've asked it is as if you're losing hope.
Well, I don't know if it's just me.
No, we shouldn't at all. You know, that's the importance of the civil society space. Okay, we mount pressure on the government to do this. Okay, if you look at the Transparency and Integrity Index I talked about, that's my organization, this is the 3rd year in which we are assessing ministries, departments, and agencies. The first year was bad. Second, there was improvement. Third, improvement. You understand? Now, ministries and departments and agencies now compete. Okay, they now come to ask us, how do we improve our ranking? You understand? So
right,
yes.
we are beginning to get ministries and departments come to us.
Yes, come to us.
That's something to celebrate.
So they come to ask, how do we do it? And then we engage in training. We train them. Okay, this is what you should do. You should have a functional website. We need social information and this. Your procurement record, human right. How many persons do you employ? How many people with a disability in your employment list, and all of those things. So you discover that those kind of interventions, those kind of measures, forces the government to sit up. Okay, so when civil society do this kind of thing, the government will be forced to work. You understand? So who should lead that? Actually, it falls on both the citizens, civil society organization, and the government. So it's a collaborative, a tripartite way something. So we shouldn't lose faith. Of course, things are bad.
Beginning to sound like that.
Yes, things are bad. That's for sure. But there is always an opportunity to improve. Okay, based on the different programs that we are bringing up to sensitize the place and to let the people know that, okay, this is wrong. Look at the organized crime program symposium we did, bringing all the law enforcement agencies, civil society organizations, the people, the academia, to come and talk about this. Okay, and inform the government, okay, these are the issues, these are where there are lacunas, these are where you should work on, and all of those things. So if you see civil society organization engaging in all of those things, you see the government will begin to sit up. Their policies, the laws and the regs that will be coming up subsequently will reflect those suggestions that have been made so far. Right. So
I'm really interested in that index. I remember when that index was the Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch Index was released. So let me get something. Some people got really low ranking and wanted to improve on it. That is really exciting.
Good.
That is really
That's
exciting.
Why I said there is hope.
But, well, while there is hope, I would like to know the number that reacted to it and want improvement. Would you say, in percentages, of course, would you say you have a sizable, appreciable improvement when it comes to people who tell you, you know what, I think I want to improve in all of this? And it's a new administration. How is also your reception? How are you being received by this new trench of appointees? And
you know, when you have the legal framework in place, you could easily get the attention of the government. Okay, when you are telling them that you need to comply with these and these international convention, UNCAC, things we have signed, you need to comply with this, you need to comply with it. You could easily get their attention. So when it comes to them being receptive towards us, that's for sure. Okay, so they don't have problem with that. Okay, and that's why you see each time we do presentation, either methodology or the launch of the TII itself, you have the whole auditorium.
What's TII?
That's the Transparency Integrity Index. Okay, so when you have the launch, you see them all there. Okay, so, and we also engage in training. We train. So when it comes to percentage, I don't have that, but I could tell you that there is a lot of improvement. Okay, there's a lot of improvement. The problem that we're having right now is to get in the local government, okay, to work. This is the first time we're going down actually to local government and the regs. Okay, so we're partnering with Association of Local Government and all of those things to see how we could extend this training to them, because we believe that if we are able to achieve that and get government to be aware that the people are actually monitoring what they are doing, okay, you see that institutions become strong. Okay, so the TI is not to shame them, but it's for us to celebrate those that do well and those that do not do well. Okay, so and when you have strong institutions like that, putting all of those informations in the public, but to be for the people to see, you see that we have a strong institution. Even the police is being assessed, everyone is being assessed like that. So you see that corruption is being reduced, and if corruption is reduced, human rights abuses will also be reduced.
I'm happy you're saying that, but you keep talking about websites, and sometimes as journalists we want to pry and know what's going on in your agency, department or ministry, and the doors are shut in our face, even with the freedom of information that we were supposed to be enjoying. However, but the websites, have you seen an improvement from, you said, how many local governments out of 774?
About 8. Yes, if I'm right, about 8 only have a functional website. That's a very big problem. That's a very, very big problem for the country.
To this moment, there's just about 8.
Yes,
just about 8
with functional websites.
And those functional websites, are they updated?
That's the problem we're having. Some broken links and all of those things. You know, the local government actually have issues. We have issues between separation of power between the state and all of those things. Okay, but then if we continue like this, and we engage in a conversation like this, okay, you see that they will be forced to improve. Okay, when you see your scores being very, very low, and you are the chairman of that local government, you want to ask yourself, okay, like the Nigerian Governors Forum, we present our findings. Okay, when they have their meetings, give them their findings. Look at what your state performed. Your state performed poorly. You see them going back. Why should my state perform poorly? What are the ways to improve them? You understand?
Are they really that concerned?
Yes, of course.
It excites me. Maybe I have been too bleak in the way I've been seeing these things, but it's good to know that. Yes, it's good to know that. But in your conversation, you talked about the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. That's one more bilateral or multilateral treaty that Nigeria signed and is part of. However, I would like to ask, when there are no punishment, I'm sure that the UN also has some sort of statistics or on measuring how well we are transparent and all of that. But do you think there should be stringent or punitive measures meted on countries that are also rating poorly? Even though we are a sovereign nation.
Exactly. That's exactly where I want to go to. Is there any punishment higher than having a bad image for your country?
Apparently, that's not affecting, and that's why you can see me excited that we're even seeing ministries, agencies, and governments that would even tell you that, oh, I'm concerned about the rankings of my organization. But very often, I don't think Nigeria really cares about image. Do you think
we do? We do.
Really?
If they don't, I do actually.
I care about my image.
You understand?
But holistically, when you look at what we do, what we say out there, I don't think it's there's this America first. There's this. When a Briton is proud to be a Briton, he doesn't want you to smear his country's name. Exactly. We see Africans as well, but Nigerians, even on social media, we talk smack about ourselves. It's like, oh, the country is so bad.
Exactly. That's another social problem that we should discuss entirely differently. Nigerians, we talk bad, talk down on our country, and to some extent, you can actually blame them. Okay, because the issues are there. In a situation where the police could just harass you, the police could just have a freedom to treat you badly, what will you expect the people to say? To say the otherwise, that the police are good to them when the police are actually bad towards them?
Of course, they will say what it is.
Exactly. So the issues are there, but then we have the obligation, the civic responsibility to speak good of our country. Okay, but to achieve that, the government need to work on itself, okay, work on the institution. You can't be poking corruption into our nose, abuse us, we're scared of our own country, and then you expect us to talk good about our country. It doesn't work that way. And when you talk about stringent punitive measures, okay, by ONCAC and all of those things, I think that's another discussion. But then,
when we see embezzlement of public funds go as if So a lot of people will
it
be
has
like,
a lot of effect on
it
us.
does have a lot
Foreign
of
direct
effect.
investment. You see the president begging multinational companies not to leave the country.
Exactly, that's
okay,
how
that
bad
we are
it is.
partners. They should stay. You see the president going to Saudi Arabia, different countries,
Trying to attract investment.
to attract investment. Okay. Like for me, I would say the first thing he should do is to create the thriving environment for those multinationals to come do business. But what he is doing first now is to call on them when the system is actually very bad. You understand? So it has direct effect on us currently, which making a lot of persons to leave the country. Okay, making multinationals and you know the effect when they leave, a lot of persons are going to lose their
jobs as well.
You understand? So the economy is bad. That's one. But then what I could say is that the government they're trying. They are not getting it right, but they're doing something. Okay, so I hope that he has the right persons, the right people to advise him.
Are we still
to do the
hoping
right
6
thing.
months into it?
We are still hoping. We keep hoping.
Are we still
It's
hoping?
renewed hope.
No, I don't like that. Are we still hoping? Shouldn't we at this point say, you know what, with this team that we are seeing and how serious they seem, there is some.
Exactly.
Anywho, I'd like you to just give us an overview as if you have a conversation with the president right now, and especially speaking about these human rights, what would you say he should start with? Where exactly should he start with? What fiat or pronunciation or policy should he push forward for, so that we can start seeing gradually that sanity and integrity for human lives in Nigeria?
All right. If I should have a conversation with the president, the first thing I will tell the president is there should be reform in the law enforcement agency. I mean practical reforms, not theoretical reforms. Okay, because when we have a good reforms in the law enforcement agencies, we have people that could police activities of human rights abusers. Okay, so if the law enforcement agents are itself an abusers, it becomes difficult for the institutions to protect the rights of the citizens.
Right.
So when we have a reform, an overhaul of the current a thing that we have, okay, a complete change, okay, in the system, a complete reorientation of the officers, okay. So you look at the prison. Recently, they had an interview and a lot of things mixed up around that sector. So we need a complete reforms around that area. So when we have it, another thing I could recommend for the president is let the government be transparent, let the government be accountable. Okay, so the things they do, your budget, let your budget be transparent. Okay, engage the people. Don't just sit down and craft budgets, accumulating a lot of percentage to things that doesn't directly benefit the citizens. Okay, so when you carry the government, the citizens along in that aspect, you see that it becomes a government for the people. Actually, the people who are not involved in it. Seek for people's opinions, seek for general opinion on what they want. If the government is transparent, if the government is accountable, you discover that issues of human rights indirectly it will also affect like that.
Well, I just like what you just said,
Thank
that
you.
as long as you can see intentionality from the government,
Exactly.
you know, I saw when the 2024 appropriation budget was submitted, and some Nigerians had the time to, you know,
Exactly.
go through it. A lot of people complained that it wasn't people oriented. It was more like self and they politically exposed and not necessarily capturing what Nigerians really want. And I like what you said. However, in your last thoughts to our viewers right now, what would it be as we celebrate? The celebration was actually yesterday, but since we are still in the mood for human rights and speaking about it and trying to uphold human rights in Nigeria, what would be your suggestion for young people, for everyone in Nigeria?
Okay, what I would say is that issues of human rights is everybody's fight. It's not the fight of just the government alone. Okay, and human rights abuse, it's not limited to the government. Okay, when you beat your wife at home, that's human rights abuse.
Exactly.
Okay, when you abuse the children that are not directly yours, that's human rights abuse. Okay, when we have children littered around the streets, not going to school, not having access to education, it's also human rights issues. Okay, so it's cut across many aspects of our lives. So I will advise that we understand the laws, we understand our rights. Okay, first of all, you have to understand your right before you defend it. So I will say Nigerians should understand their right, and how do we do that? Through following what the civil society organizations are doing. Currently, my organization is planning on training journalists on most of those things, on issues that have to do with reporting of budget and all of those things. So when you follow us like that, you get to understand what people are doing around that space and how they could be part of it, okay, to benefit the whole country. I also want to talk about the police as well. The police, okay, they are the first, they are the gatekeeper. Okay, they are very important. Nigerians are not their enemies. Okay, we are all together in this. Okay, it is the same citizens that go into the police institution and mess things up. You understand? So we should be have a situation where you understand the rights of the people and then defend it, okay, in a way that is transparent. Also the government as well. The government needs to be transparent, need to be accountable to the people. The judiciary especially, okay, where you see that citizens are not getting justice, it's become a problem, it's become a human rights issue as well. Okay, so there are a lot of corruption in the judicial system entirely. So there's a need for a reform in that system. There's a need for reform in the judiciary as well, so that justice can be served when needed.
You couldn't have said it any better. Thank you so much, Godwin Agaba Ochube. Thank you for being part of the program. Okay, he is the Strategic Relations Officer, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity. What we've been discussing, tackling Nigeria's human rights violations. And thank you again for your insights into this topic. But this is where we draw the curtains. My name is Joy Asonye. We'll be back tomorrow with so much more. So do have a wonderful evening.